I am afflicted with a cold. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to introduce my lab manager, Todd, here. But first I'll tell you, I do not have a medical marijuana collective in Ohio. I have one in Sacramento, the city of Sacramento. We make concentrated marijuana products. I'm going to show you, don't worry, there's no cannabis inside of here. This is a package, one of our packages. It's very small. It has on the back all of the information from the laboratory about what's inside of the product and the fact that it's pesticide free and also free of residual solvents. Now, how many people here really feel like they know what a cannabis concentrate is? Please raise your hand. So we got about one. So what we're two, and all these folks. So what we're going to do is Todd's going to talk briefly about what we do at our facility, and then we're going to just turn it over to questions because I figure you guys can lead us where you want us to go. What we're going to talk about today are concentrates, why they're important, what our process is, and then in particular the issue of pesticides, which is very important to our part of the industry because when you concentrate marijuana and then consume it and it's full of pesticides, it can become very toxic very quickly, and it's actually a huge problem in the state of California right now. It's not well understood. Real quick, I used to be a journalist. I wrote a story about cannabis. I thought these guys seem to be having a lot more fun than I'm having. So that's how I started doing it. We're in Sacramento. We pay lawyers a lot of money to ensure that we are abiding by every law we can abide by. We're paying every tax we can. We're paying taxes to the city of Sacramento, to the state of California, to the federal government. And what we do is non-volatile. You all have heard about cannabis labs blowing up. That is not what we want to do. So we work hard to not blow up. I'm now going to introduce Todd, my lab manager, a wonderful young man who we hired just a few months ago, and he's going to fill you in on what we do. Thanks.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Todd Smith. I'm a recent addition to the cannabis industry, extremely recent. I consider myself a manufacturer at heart. I'm a graduate of Chico State in fairly recently, within 4 years. Before that, right after I graduated, I started working for an environmental testing firm. I applied EPA card protocols at pollution sources. After that, I started working at a glass container manufacturer. Glass blowing was my hobby and got into it. I loved it. I made upwards of 1.6 million glass bottles a day, ran 24/7. Did that for 2 years. 6 months ago, I was approached by Himalaya Vapor here, looking for a lab manager, and I wanted nothing to do with it because I was like, man, I do not want to blow up. I heard nothing but bad things about concentrates. Down the line, I started thinking about, you know what, that does sound really interesting. I'm going to see what it's all about. I took a tour of the laboratory, and after working in dozens of industrial settings, this was the safest and most welcoming environment I could have ever seen. And I hopped on immediately, and I didn't look back. This is the biggest audience I've ever spoken in front of. Pretty nice. All right. So I will start a little bit about how our process works and how concentrates are made, because it looks like not very many of you guys know very much about it, and I'll show what I know. So it starts off with the raw materials. We specifically use the product called trim. Now this is a byproduct of the flower processing. This is normally a waste material that would either go to edible processors or concentrate makers like us. There is valuable essential oils and cannabinoids and terpenes in this material, and we extract them. So this begins with the process called supercritical CO2 extraction. So the cannabinoids are soluble in many solvents, but not water. And solvent we use is CO2. We take liquid CO2 and we heat it and put it under high pressure. When you put it under high pressure, it becomes a new state. It becomes something called supercritical. It's neither a liquid nor a gas. But in this state, the cannabinoids become extremely soluble. So we take the trim, we process it, we grind it up very finely and pack it into an extraction vessel. In this extraction vessel, we pump liquid CO2 into this extraction vessel, apply heat and pressure, and cannabinoids and all essential oils dissolve. Now, then we pump that CO2 that has all the cannabinoids into solution into a secondary vessel where the pressure drops and the solubility of the cannabinoids is reduced. The oils precipitate out and then are collected. This leaves behind all undesirable products such as cell walls, non-active waxes, essentially we want to make a pure and contaminant-free product. So after we collect the CO2 extract, the CO2 is then recycled back into the system. It is a closed-loop system. There is very minimal waste solvent, and our solvent is non-flammable and non-active as carbon dioxide. So from there, we collect the raw CO2 extract, and through further distillation steps where we separate the compounds by boiling point, we then collect the material after separation and then send it out to different laboratories to test for potency, residual solvents, and pesticides. The pesticides are really the biggest issue for us. What we've all discovered is that the pesticides, they're essential in many cases for outdoor and indoor cultivation to prevent multiple kinds of blights, molds, fungus, caterpillars, moths, mites. Now, they can be used very sparingly in different stages of the growth cycle. So, at the flowering cycle, hopefully there's not very many pesticides. It's all tested before it goes to the dispensaries, but it should be very low. Now, many of these pesticides, they're intended for fruit crops or ornamental plants. And what we've discovered is that their profile is very similar to delta-9 THC and the other cannabinoids. Their solubility is the boiling point. The boiling point is extremely close. So when we try and separate the cannabinoids from the residual plant material, the pesticides will also follow the active compounds we're trying to isolate. So you can essentially start with a safe product, your flower or your trim with a small amount of pesticides in it. Then when you concentrate it, the pesticides also become concentrated. That's a very big issue for us. Many people are trying to resolve this problem. And right now, the only solution we found is to start with a material that has no pesticides. So in the future, we are hoping to see a more sensible pesticide regulation in growing operations that benefits both growers and processors and patients alike. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
One thing I forgot to mention, in Colorado, which is basically the bellwether for California, because it's difficult really to find reliable sales data throughout the state of California at this point. So we look to Colorado because they started first. In Colorado last year, concentrate sales grew by 125%. Edibles grew by about 40%, and flower grew by 8%. It's my belief that concentrates in 5 years will be the vast preponderance of cannabis products consumed in the state of California will come from concentrate. The reasons are simple. First of all, it's discreet. The products we make, which are vape cartridges, kind of like tobacco vape, the vapor they emit is more or less odorless. You are not lighting wood on fire and inhaling it into your lungs, so potentially it's safer, although we don't know because there's such a paucity of research. But what it is pure, and we're able to control it. So what that means is that we're actually able to control the constituent chemical elements of the cannabis and rearrange those elements however we like. This is why GW Pharmaceuticals in England just received a major patent, because they're treating cannabis like a pharmaceutical. And I think that that's really the future of cannabis, is basically designer marijuana. And so what that means is that with respect to pesticides, I mean, under the MCRSA and under adult use, there's, regulators in California obviously already understand this problem. We're only here to say we see it every day. It would be easy for us to sell products contaminated with pesticides if we wanted to, because there's really only a few places that actually audit, and there's no statewide testing regimen. In addition to that, some of the labs that test for this do an excellent job, some not so much. What all of that means is that this pesticide issue is a big deal. And so as you all think about how to work these things in your counties, you just need to be aware that more and more of the cannabis is going to be in concentrated form, whether in vape cartridges, dabs, which are these crazy things that people do that get them really high, so on and so forth. All of those things, if the pesticide concentrations are more than very small, we're talking parts per million, a very small part, they can be toxic. So, anyway, that's it.